Hey friends, welcome back to another compelling episode of the JoyPad podcast. That's the word. I'm Megan. I've only been here for, a few of the episodes so far because technology's great when it works and not when it doesn't. So to not ramble any longer, I'm going to pass this on to someone else so you guys can introduce yourselves.
I'm going to pick up that torch. My name's Tom. Welcome back to what I was totally on board with being called the JoyPod Podcast for just a minute. But we are very glad to have you here, and I'm going to throw it next to Michael Fleming.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Nice to see you all. Super excited for more topics today and fun and games. Michael Pinto, what's up with you? How you doing?
I'm here too. I'm Mike Pinto. I play games, and sometimes I talk about games, like on this podcast. Yeah!
Nice.
Unacceptable. This is a JoyPod podcast. We don't talk about games here.
We talk about our pads.
It's the opposite.
We talk about the joy we get from soybean pods.
Ooh.
Hey, man.
And the landing pads that we enjoy them on.
I would eat edamame on a landing pad.
Hell yeah, I would. I would do the same.
Oh.
And I'm also making a little bit of a listener apology here because I listened to myself on our last recording and I sounded like a dry, boring, sad, tired nerd because I totally was last time. So I'm trying to up my energy level and I'm sorry.
Bring it.
Keep that energy going. Tom, to that point, what are you playing right now? Anything new?
What are you playing right now, at this very moment?
We're all playing
What am I
something.
playing right now? Well, my active applications include Google Chrome, Audacity, and Skype. I'm trying to think what games, if any, I may have played this weekend that kind of changed up from what we've been doing. I gotta be honest, it's been a little bit flat for me. We were just having a conversation before we started recording where I talked about considering playing Super Mario RPG based on our previous episodes. Haven't done that yet. Still giving it a good old consideration, but I have a Super Nintendo, what's the exact term for it? Classic, I guess, system, which happens to have that very game, and I'm really thinking about plugging that in and playing it, and I just haven't done it yet.
You're really thinking about it?
I am. See, this is me overcompensating for the energy level.
You'll just sound insane.
Let me just do weird inflections.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm gonna go totally like radio circus first thing in the morning thing if I can. So if someone can just throw me a cowbell.
Hey, it's the JoyPod Podcast.
Oh, hang on. I can edit in some toilet flushing sounds. Let me pull out a menagerie of buttons.
Hey, this is Johnny Ding Dong and the Wiener. We are gonna give that one a good old flusheroo. Anyway. There it is.
Nice.
But in terms of games, I have actually still playing my mobile go-to, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, which may actually get impacted by coronavirus, which is kind of interesting. Their studio's based in Singapore. They release content every week normally. But Singapore is enacting some stricter controls around stay-at-home. So non-essential studios and businesses may no longer be able to commute in for work. So I'm actually interested to see if that's going to impact the weekly content for that game or not.
Yeah.
Aside from that, we've been playing Payday, Rocket League here and there, Stardew Valley here and there. Nothing all that new there. I would say nothing new and exciting, except I'm always excited by playing Stardew Valley, and I've been enjoying Payday and Rocket League, of course. Rocket League is my love-hate game. But I will stop rambling because I've been going off for quite a while, so why don't we switch up the order and I'll let Pinto go next.
Ooh.
So, as usual, co-op games, of course, like Tom said, Stardew, Rocket League, Payday. We recently attempted to play DayZ, the standalone game.
What is that like?
That is Tom's hate game.
God, I already repressed that memory.
That was, we all died very quickly. Tom got eaten by wolves, which we didn't know were in the game.
Oh my God. Can we... All right, I know I said I'd stop talking.
And he's going.
Because you brought this up.
But here's the thing. We're talking about things we love. You're not allowed to complain.
Okay, well then I have nothing to say about this.
Here's what happened. We figured out you could thumb up and thumb down, and Fleming lost his mind for about 10 minutes.
Wait, what?
It was hilarious. Like, you could make your character give thumbs up and thumbs down, and we finally found each other after 15 minutes.
We're all
And just
starving to
started-
death.
Yep.
Like Emperor Nero, you can just hold your thumb up. Like
Yep.
your character just holds it straight in
That's
front of them.
awesome.
And you press a button to toggle it up and
Look,
down.
I'm about to lose my shit again because that was the funniest thing. Because so we're all starving to death because there's no food in this game. As much as they say, hey, there's food now, there's not food. So we're all starving to death. And I'm in a church, and then I find out that Tom's close by, and Tom shows up, and I knew that there was like emojis, not emojis, but like models you could do, make your character
Yeah.
take actions. And one of them was a thumbs up, so I made sure it was a thumbs up as he walks in. And he's like, "Hey," and he's like, "How'd you do that?" So I put a thumbs up, and we're talking, and he's like, "Hey, there's some like a bag, a backpack you can pick up on the ground, or flying in the air rather, not on the
Oh
ground."
no, it wasn't on the ground. It was floating in the air above a pew.
Yeah, excuse me. It was flying there. So I still have my thumb up, and I found out that you can change it by just clicking your mouse, and it would do a thumbs down. So I'm like, Tom, you know what I think about this? Thumbs down. I make my character do it, which was the funniest thing to me. And I just completely lost it for the next 10 minutes. I'm just crying, laughing. It was the funniest thing, and I don't know why. So yeah, we've been playing a lot of DayZ, or not a lot, but we played.
We played like half an hour.
We played a lot in terms of how
Half-
little we have, but we used to play a lot of DayZ, and I think
Half
that
an hour of a DayZ standalone is the same as like 3 days of any other game.
well, the funny thing about that was we were living in like nostalgic DayZ mod for
Yeah.
like the whole thing. We were just talking about what we did in DayZ mod versus DayZ.
That's why Tom was so upset. It used to be
When I got
such a
eaten by
good
wolves.
game.
Yeah, because he got eaten by wolves, which made no sense. Where did the wolves come from? Why did they want Tom?
I dodged so many zombies. I've never felt good in that game. I finally thought that I was getting to the point where I could actually survive and have a good playthrough in that game. And
Not
then
so
out
much.
Of nowhere, while I'm about to drink from a stream, out of nowhere come 1 wolf, 2 wolves, 3 wolves, 4 wolves, 5 wolves, 6 wolves. I was just like, I didn't even know wolves were in this
Jesus
game.
Christ.
I was mauled to death by wolves in a game about zombies. It was the strangest experience.
So this isn't what I've been playing. All the games that we've already mentioned, I've pretty much been playing. But I did purchase Animal Crossing. I have not had an opportunity
Yes.
to play Animal Crossing because every time I'm like, I'm going to play some Animal Crossing, I find my wife sitting there playing Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing.
So
there
I
it
have
is.
not played it yet, but super excited to play that probably this weekend since we'll have a lot of time with current worldly situations. So excited to get into that and see kind of what they have. I have watched a lot of it. The game looks incredible. It's a lot of fun. And the nice thing is that kind of game is such a laid back, like Stardew, laid back game where you're just having a good time, just hanging out. So I'm excited to play that. So that's not what I'm playing now, but what I will be playing this weekend. Megan, what are you up to? What are you playing?
I am actually playing Animal Crossing right now.
Awesome.
I bought it the day it came out, and I've been pretty much at least signing into it for an hour every day just to progress the story, progress my town, get everything I need to. It's such a good game, especially in the current state of our world, where I can just shut off and focus on planting some flowers, finding some fossils, fishing. And it's not as not that Stardew is intense, but fishing is harder. You have to garden more. It's more involved, I guess. Whereas Animal Crossing, not so much. I like it. So I've been playing that. I pre-ordered the Final Fantasy VII remake, so I'll be playing that starting tomorrow. But that's about it, really.
I'm very ready for the Final Fantasy remake.
Yeah. It's going to be my first time playing Final Fantasy VII.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I didn't have
You
a
just blew our
PlayStation
minds.
growing up.
Yeah, you had a Dreamcast, you weirdo.
That's my brother's fault.
Well, that still plays discs, so
Yeah.
you should have bought a copy of Final Fantasy VII and just put it in the Dreamcast.
It would have worked. It would have worked.
It'll work out fine.
That's that like child logic. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we didn't have a PlayStation. Our first Sony console was meaning like me and my brother. It was the PlayStation 2. That's when we got on board.
Still could have played Final Fantasy VII.
I know. There's no excuse. There's really no excuse.
You know what kind of games the PlayStation 2 plays?
You know what though? Playing the remake of it's gonna be pretty exciting. And
Yeah.
also you're a very unbiased opinion. So like Tom's played Final Fantasy VII probably multiple times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Tom plays it, he's gonna be like, they changed this very small thing and I don't like that. Whereas you're gonna be like, this game was great. I love this game.
This is incredible. Yeah.
It's an incredible experience. So I'm actually excited for you both to play it and then debate. Because I don't intend to play the remake
come
most
back.
likely, at least quickly. Yeah, and you guys could be like, oh, this game was, good. This game was great. This game wasn't as good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Exciting.
I do hope you go back and play the original, though.
I will.
At some point.
And since the remake only goes through Midgar at this point, from what I understand.
Oh,
Yes.
I didn't know
What?
that. I thought it was the whole
We
game.
will-
Wow.
No.
They're doing it in an episodic format.
Oh yeah, they
How
are.
nice of them. I'm sure more dollar bills had to be dished out then to get it, right?
Oh,
Definitely.
yeah. But they're expanding on a lot of stuff.
Okay,
So
that's
they
always
say.
good.
You don't reboot a big ticket IP without turning on the money printer
All
first.
right, now my excitement is like starting to wane now that I'm aware of
No.
this.
I think it's still going to be very good, and from what I've heard, they're really adding a lot of new stuff in like the Midgar section. So it's really very different. I mean, even did you play the demo at all,
I
Megan?
didn't. I wanted to go into it without really knowing a whole lot.
Well, that's fair. So just, I think I discussed this a little bit on the last episode, but I think from my experience with the demo, I felt like it maintained the same beats as the original, just in the small span of time that you play in the demo, but it had a new life of its own. Like, it's very different but appropriate in tone.
Okay.
So I thought that was good. So I think there's going to be enough to make it its own game, and I'm kind of interested in seeing how it compares. But we'll see.
Awesome.
I also just want to say really quick, I didn't get to say that there was one other game that I definitely wanted to mention. So last Friday, as of this recording, the Resident Evil 3 remake came out,
Oh,
which I was
yeah.
excited for, and I bought. And I will say, it was very good. However, I don't think it should have been $60 because I beat the game in 6 hours.
Oh, that's
That's a
expensive.
letdown.
Wow.
I like the game a lot, I just think it should have been less. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
How long was the original Resident Evil 3? I assume it wasn't 6 hours.
A lot of people are saying it was about that same length. I never played the original Nemesis.
I don't think I played that either. I'm trying to remember.
So I fully copped to not being much of like a horror survival player. That's my wife's domain. But that's really...
It's awfully
It's
short.
it's right on the cusp
Ugh.
for me. Like if you have a really really good game and it only takes 6 to 10 hours to beat and it's 60-ish dollars, that I think's okay. But once you start getting to that $60 and you're not even getting a day's worth of gaming, like
Yeah.
that's pushing it. And that's really hard, I think, to warrant.
It was $60, and I think there's good replayability there. My thing is, inflated difficulty does not make a game last longer or better. Mm-hmm. Like,
No.
a lot of people are saying, "Oh, just play it on a harder difficulty." It's like,
No.
I could, but it doesn't add to the game length at all.
Yeah.
It just changes the difficulty. It also came with another multiplayer game called Project Resistance, which I haven't tried yet, but in my opinion, I think they should have been like, you don't have to purchase Project Resistance if you just want Resident Evil 3, and then it'll cost less. But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's business that I can't really get into.
Well, I really liked
business.
I really liked Resident Evil 7, but I felt like it was short too. Like once you got through everything, it all in all was a very short game.
There was DLC, well,
The
there was
DLC.
DLC, but you had to pay for
Right.
it. Unless you bought the season pass. which
Right.
You still had to pay for it.
Since we're on the micro topic
Uh-oh.
of games which are too short. Did any of you ever play Zone of the Enders?
I've heard of it, never played it.
So Zone of the Enders came out relatively early on in the life cycle of the PS2, and basically served as the vehicle to provide a Metal Gear Solid 2 demo, which is super sad because it was a fun game where you played as a kid who had like a Gundam made competently by Konami at the point at which Konami was a good game studio. And it was about, I want to say, like 5 hours long, which was really disappointing because it actually had like a pretty fun and different kind of like system for, being in a giant robot and shooting other giant robots and like people and like enemy things. And it was pretty cool. But yeah, just the limited time really was a bummer. They did make a sequel to it called Zone of the Enders 2, which was a little bit more like anime influenced. And there was a versus mode at the end of Zone of the Enders 1. But yeah, just the short time. Like, I don't know if you guys can think of like any other games like that, but that was a game I know I paid like $50 for on PS2 back in its heyday and was just like, oh man, why'd this end? And then I played the demo of Metal Gear Solid 2 for like 80 hours straight.
I can't think of games that I've played that have been too short, but I do think that there are games that you play that the experience is very different and arguably shorter because someone teaches you everything. So I'll use our recent example, Stardew Valley. Definitely replayability. We'll play that, I think, a long time and for a while. But everything was told to me pretty much. Hey, if you go to this guy and you give him this thing, you get this, star drop, which gives you this energy, and that is important. Like in some ways that's great, but in some other ways that cuts into your, length to complete the game.
Right.
So that's my most recent example of a game where, you can, in a multiplayer, you can have things cut short. That's why, like, we're playing Payday 2 recently. And that's why I almost don't want to play anything that either I've played at all myself or I want you guys to kind of figure it out, because I don't want to be like, here's how you do every little trick and tactic in this one, because it kind of ruins the experience.
It takes
So,
away that fun of figuring it out.
I have a little bit of that multiplayer problem, I guess, more so than individual games, because I haven't played a lot of individual games recently.
I feel like that's like, to some degree, I agree with you. To the other degree, I think that falls into what Pinto brought up earlier about being like the difficulty not being content, because especially in RPGs, like where there's fetch quests and it's just like, hey, bring me this thing. And you either know what the thing is or you don't know what the thing is, or you know how to get it or you don't, or whatever it is. That's all just kind of like drawing the experience out.
Yeah.
But if you have someone that knows what it is and how to best plan for it, I mean, that's why strategy guides were like such a thing for such a while. And they've fallen off with the advent of like game FAQs and stuff like that. But you almost needed a strategy guide to play RPGs for a while, because otherwise you would spend your whole life looking for a red pin somewhere, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And in a game like Final Fantasy X-2, if you missed it somewhere, there went your 100% completion ratio, and then all of a sudden you're not getting the best ending that the game has to offer. I see what you're saying about, it's almost like stumbling through the game yourself. And I think Stardew Valley is very forgiving in that sense.
Yeah.
If you miss something, you can take care of it later. But there's other games where that's not the case. I think it's a balance as to whether or not it hurts or helps the experience. And it depends on how you feel about it. For example, like when we play Payday together, you're probably not having as much fun if you have to explain how everything works to us.
I mean, at the same time, though, I think that's how a lot of those games kind of go. And first-person shooters are a little strange, and just like Rocket League, other things like that. Like, I don't think I have a problem teaching people those kind of games. I don't know. I don't mind having that kind of experience, especially because then when I see someone play better, that's great. So, like, I've taught plenty of people how to play Counter-Strike. Seen them become, pretty good players. And that's always exciting, because it's like, hopefully some part of that, is actually something I told them, or some tip or trick. I guess what I was referring to is like losing some of the content just because someone else can plow through it for you in a multiplayer game is kind of something where it's like, okay, well, that's great that we beat this, but did I really experience it? So like, if you take Payday 2, there's a map called First World Bank. It's incredibly easy if you know all the tips and tricks of how to beat it. In stealth, you can beat it in 10 minutes or so, and it gets you a lot of money. It's one that people often rush just because they can do it so quickly. But I don't think it's good for people to, like, for me to say, here's every trick in that map, and now you guys know it. Now you guys can do it too, because then you haven't like kind of learned and done all that. So that's kind of where my concern is when games are too short. It's around the multiplayer aspect of it, around game guides just giving you all the tips and tricks to do something. But I do agree with you. Something like Final Fantasy X, if you're not able to get the best ending because you miss one little pin on the ground somewhere, that's kind of ridiculous. And
that is bogus.
That's not how it should be in the game.
You know what? I think I understand where you're coming from, and I think I know the perfect example. And the perfect example takes me back to Diablo 2, back when I used to play Diablo 2 online. And I was never a great player of Diablo 2, but I enjoyed it. But there was always someone around who would be willing to rush you through whatever mode, whatever something. So basically there would be a player that would be at some extraordinarily high level that would take on some guy who's at like level 1 and just go straight to the last boss, and you would just teleport there and he would beat the ever-loving hell out of him.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you'd be level 48 and you'd have some sweet gear and you'd have a great title. And that's not playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone that...
the game.
And I actually played Diablo 2, and I remember it was called Hell Rushing, I believe, right? Because you would get up to the Hell difficulty, if I remember right, very quickly. If that is your second character, and you're just trying to, get to that to that level, because you've already beaten the story, understandable. But the first time, you really should play through the game. You should listen to the dialogue from Deckard Cain and others like that, and learn what the Herodric Cube is, because you need to know that meme. And
would you say that you have to stay a while and listen?
Yes, I would absolutely say you have to do that. So that's something where you in a multiplayer game especially, you don't ruin your experience so that someone else can so you miss the whole experience of the game. Yes, playing with friends is great, but have them start a new character too. Have them not tell you all the tips and tricks. So just my personal thought on that. I mean, we're getting a little off topic because I'm trying to think. I don't play a lot of single player games recently, so I can't think of a game where it's been too short for me for the cost. I feel like every game I've bought has been good for the cost if the game was done. One of my topics, and we'll hold off on that, is around pre-releases and alpha releases, but it's a whole different kind of subject. I don't think I have an experience of a game that's been too costly for what it's worth.
And I don't want to focus on the negative for too long here, but one other one I can think of is I bought Soul Calibur 6 a while ago, and I was a big fan of the Soul Calibur series of fighting games. Pretty cool mechanics where you can do the horizontal, vertical, and kind of melee attacks. I had a great time with it, I think was Soul Calibur 3 on the PlayStation 2. Which has kind of like a story mode where you create your own fighter and you go on like expeditions and you recruit new people, and it's really fun. Soul Calibur 6 decided to just completely abandon like its actual story and its story mode, and there's just like concept art drawings, and you just kind of like finish one plot line. It's like, great job. The end.
Well done.
So And I get that fighting games are not always like the most story involved, but I always enjoyed like when the Mortal Kombats have specific endings for each character. The Soul Calibur games 3 and 4 definitely had different endings for each character.
Yeah.
So that was one case where I felt the game was kind of short. But anyway, that was kind of just an impromptu topic because we can do things like that. It's all right. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to get out of the way before I turned on another topic? Because it's my turn to turn on a topic, even though I already turned on like 2 topics earlier without even trying to.
Hey man, it's all good. No, go ahead.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, then fire up your old school ska, turn on Goldfinger's Superman, and get ready to talk about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, because that's something I adore and miss, and am honestly pretty sad that we haven't had another really good Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game in a long time, because I remember distinctly being a kid going up to my grandparents' house in upstate New York and just sitting down with my cousin's Nintendo 64, which he would lend me for an entire week because he is a saint. uh, and I don't know if he took pity on my existence or if he was just that cool or what. I love you, Jimmy. You're a great guy. And I would just play just the most basic Tony Hawk game for forever. And I mean, the music that's there was burned into my brain. I mean, so much of it was like old, early 90s, mid 90s ska music. Probably why I enjoy ska music now, also because of Pinto listening to a bunch of ska music when we lived together in a dorm, and just really being kind of an innovative sports game. I mean, there were a couple innovative sports games at that time, but no one had really done anything around skateboarding that made it as fun as it was.
I remember.
And then really,
sorry, Tom. I remember I remember other kinds of trick-based games like snowboarding was really big right around then. And I was going to ask you, have you seen any of those? Maybe not skateboarding, because I don't even know. Tony Hawk's probably like, what, in his 50s now? He's definitely...
He's pushing 50.
Yeah, he's definitely around 50 at least, I would say. But is there any of those sports games that really have come out at all recently?
so it's funny you mentioned two things. Yes, Tony Hawk's pretty old. He actually posts on Twitter about like funny encounters he has with people who actually don't recognize him, or people that like they're like, "Hey man, you look kind of like Tony Hawk." It's
like,
he's
yes, I
am
do.
Tony Hawk.
I get that a lot.
Right around that time, there were a bunch of different, what I would say are extreme sports games.
Yeah, there's Dave
on
Mirra.
Nintendo 64 also. Dave Mirra with the BMX side.
Matt Hoffman also with BMX.
Yep.
Matt Hoffman. Wave Runner 64.
Oh, Wave
Yep,
Runner.
I remember Wave Runner.
That was a great game.
Cool Borders.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you remember
Borders.
the only reason I remember Cool Borders is because at the start of the game when you turned it on, it would go Cool Borders, and then when you press start, it'd be like, let's go. That's all I remember about the game, but just that moment.
Hey man, when you started Snowboard Kids, they'd go Snowboard
Oh,
Kids.
that
Nice.
game.
That's such a thing of that era,
Yeah.
those sound bites, and they're adorable, and I love it.
Yeah.
The other one I would call out as the next generation would be, of course, SSX, which
Yes.
I also played a ton
Oh,
of.
SSX3, man, such a good game.
All of those games were great, and really, I mean, they took something so simple, which was just racing down a mountain, and added
Yeah.
a fun mechanic of do tricks to get boost to make it so much more entertaining.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised someone like Mario Nintendo has not done something. They have Mario Kart, which has been successful for
Oh,
years.
dude,
You would think they
there
would do
are so
something.
many Mario sports games. There's Mario
Well,
and Sonic at the Olympics.
But not like an yeah, see, there's not an extreme sports
That's what
Mario,
I'm saying.
but Mario and Sonic at the Olympics is probably as close as it gets.
Yeah.
Hey, the Simpsons did it.
Did they? What did they do?
There was Simpsons skateboarding. There was Simpsons
God.
wrestling. I know there was Simpsons
I
Hit
remember
and
that.
Run, which was
Yeah,
like,
I remember Hit and Run. Hit and
Yeah.
Run was Crazy Taxi.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
it was.
Yeah. But anyway, to go back to the other point, which was, are these games as prevalent today? Sadly, I think the answer is
No.
no. And actually, there was an attempt recently
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5.
to do Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, which was a game I overzealously purchased and downloaded like as soon as it came out, and it was really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad to say it was really bad. The control was awful.
Skateboarding was a
It was-
90s thing though, too. You know, like
Late 90s, early 2000s.
yeah.
Here's the thing: there was a lot of enthusiasm around that game. Like I would have loved for that game to have been like good and to have played out, because one of my favorite things about the Tony Hawk franchise was Tony Hawk's Underground,
Yes.
which came out in probably
That was
around
my
like
favorite.
2004 or something.
Yep.
And had online play. It was like one of the first games to have like online play, and you could rack up combos like insane
It
in
was
that
stupid.
game.
Yep.
It was stupid, but
was
it
great.
made it so much fun. And there was like, I still remember there was one specific run on Moscow that you could do where you would like kick off one wall, jump up onto another grind rail, go around, kick off another wall, and just keep going around the same circuit. But it let you do like every sort of trick in the book. You know, it really brought skill into it because it became a contest of how do you balance your grind, How do you balance your manuals? How do you make sure you're not running down your gauge of getting off your skateboard? Because there was a timed gauge where when you got off your skateboard, if you had a little bit of time to get to another transfer.
Yeah.
And how do you pull off your big tricks without bailing? So, I mean, you would see people that would get like billion-point combos, which took a ton of skill, and it really set a new bar and really expanded how much you could do with the game, which was super cool. So it was really disappointing when, like, 10 years later, I mean, even more than that, we got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, and I was like, cool, take all of this in the modern age, up the graphics, make cool new areas where you can just do this all over the place. That's all you need to be insane. And it went way too basic in the formula, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think the market's still out there.
Well, there was Skate for a while. I think the last one came out, in like 2010? Where they tried to get a bit more realistic with like the moves and the lines and everything that you would do, but it was still like a super solid game and a lot of fun to play.
See, I never played much of Skate. Was it more of like a realistic?
They were trying to go, more realistic. A lot of like the missions, you would say, would be based around like you just essentially becoming a pro skater, but you would do like photo shoots. You would go to like iconic areas and like grind this rail, jump down this set of stairs. Like it was more, it was, they were going for like a more realistic feel with it.
And you know what? I feel like that was one of the things I liked about the Tony Hawk Underground games too, was because it had a story mode, and you started off as a nobody, basically.
Yeah, you're working your way up.
Yeah, and it would build your ability to hold your grinds and your manuals and do different tricks as you went. You expanded like your trick slots. But along the way, you also competed in like pro-ams and then different competitions. And depending on how you did, you got access to new areas or new boards and stuff like that. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, Skate did that too. Like you would get, from what I remember, it's been years since I've played any of them, but you would get sponsorships from different companies that would sell like decks or shoes or like whatever. So,
which is awesome. I mean, it's a real sort of experience, but with the fantasy element of being a way better skater than anyone ever possibly could. which is cool. Shoot, I really think what happened with Tony Hawk over time was maybe as Skate was trying to be the more realistic side of things, Tony Hawk tried to go kind of crazy. And Pinto, you probably remember this. I forget what the name of the game was, but I remember it was a Tony Hawk game we were playing that you had on your PS3, I think. And the entire part of this one mission was just to bail off your board and bounce off the asphalt down this hill.
Oh, yes.
See how many bones?
To do as much damage as possible, yeah.
I think that was either Project 8 or Proving Grounds. It was one of those two. I can't remember.
Is that Tony Hawk, or is that like its own thing?
Oh, it's Tony Hawk, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, like, it almost felt like, and I'm sorry, I hope I'm not offending any Virgineers out here, but it felt like the influence of like MTV's Jackass, which I think was still pretty prominent around that point in time.
Which Tony Hawk game did Bam first star in? Was that 3 or 4? Because Bam Margera was a playable character
3.
in several of those games.
I'm pretty sure 3.
Well, Bam was a skater.
The influence of Jackass
was.
is very prevalent, yes.
Wasn't there a Tony Hawk game where they had like an actual skate deck?
Tony Hawk's Ride?
Apparatus? Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that came out for, I believe, the Wii U?
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Where they had a skateboard peripheral.
Yes, yeah. It made me think of that arcade game where it was like a deck that you would stand on. I can't remember what it was called, but I remember always wanting to play it whenever I would go to an arcade.
I remember that game, and I remember that, like, I too was called by the illusion of being a good skateboarder in an arcade. No, it sucked. Yeah, look at me, I'm busting sweet kickflips. Yes, I remember you had to beat the crap out of that thing to try. Oh my god, I'm glad you brought this back into my life because apparently this has become a repressed memory from how bad I was at it.
Yeah, you would have to like shift your feet to turn the board. It was bad. It was so bad.
It was a really tough, like, peripheral. Like, I mean, you could, like, clearly it had to be because you had, like, a legion of 10-year-olds who were probably just jumping on it all day.
And probably, like, a couple 20 and 30-year-olds.
Oh, yeah. Like, if there were still one, like, a couple blocks away, I'd be jumping on it right
for
now,
sure.
to be perfectly honest with you. No, I just remember you really had to, like, dig your feet in to, like, push it one way or the other.
Was it like Top Skater? I think that's what it was called. I can't remember.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Was it connected to the Thrasher franchise? Because that was also something. There was a Thrasher Skate and Destroy video game, which I was less familiar with, but I knew it was out there.
There was do you guys remember Skate or Die on the NES?
Skate or Die.
Yes.
Die, 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 die.
I do
Yes.
not remember Skate or Die. What was this?
Tony Hawk in the early days. No, it was like there would be like a top-down map where you would skate throughout town but have to like avoid things. You could go to the skate shop, you could go and compete in competitions. I think there was a half pipe that you would like skate in. There was an obstacle course. It's been forever since I've played it, but I played it so much when I was a kid. Yeah, it was really weird. Do you remember anything about it, Pinto?
I remember there being a half pipe.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting it mixed up with another like early Nintendo or Super Nintendo game that also had skateboarding.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think I'm getting it mixed up with Totally Rad, which was where you would like your girlfriend got kidnapped. It was a side scroller where you were a skateboarder and you were like throwing things at lizards. It was weird.
Yeah, no, something different. Yeah, Skate or Die, you would
like
do
Road
like
Rash.
competitions. There would be like a race through the town where you would have to avoid obstacles. Again, like tricks on a half pipe. I forget what else. I can't remember.
I just love the faux like bravado of Skate or Die. It was such a thing that was just like that kind of culture.
It was great.
Kids were saying that all throughout high school. Like
I remember when the
Skate or Die,
so the first Tony Hawk, you couldn't get off your skateboard if I remember
Nope,
right,
you
and I
couldn't.
think
You
it was
couldn't even manual.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think.
It was a while, but I remember when you finally could get off your skateboard and actually like run to the next thing. I remember that being such a huge thing when that finally came into. I forget which game first did that.
Underground.
I thought it was
that was
Underground because that's the one I played the most. I also remember Blitzkrieg Bop from
Yes.
Tony Hawk because
yeah.
that's the song that I remember best from Tony Hawk. So yeah. It's crazy to me that it's been 10 years or so. I mean, you mentioned Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, but 10 years have gone by since what Megan has said is a very recent, good, skateboarding, extreme sports kind of game.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because we're all missing out. We just don't know about it. So I'd love to hear from somebody if there is one out there.
There was I think Steep, which was snowboarding, skiing, but it didn't really grab my attention. It was a free download on the PlayStation Store 1 month, and I played it, but it was just it wasn't the same. It didn't capture that experience of just doing something stupid and whimsical and fun. It just took itself too seriously.
That's what it's all about, right? I mean, actually, I have heard tell that there is a mod out there for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater Underground, or Thug, as they used to call it.
Yep, I remember
Online, on computers, that's still out there that lets you just play the game online competitively. And I'm sure there's like graphics mods for it and everything.
That sounds amazing.
I've heard it still lives. Yeah.
No, totally try that.
I was super excited when they introduced character customization. I'm a big fan when I can make my own character.
Oh yeah, I think
It was really good character customization
It
too.
was.
There were a lot of options. And I don't know if you remember this, but it had an option where you could upload a picture
Yes.
to the internet of your
Yes.
face in the era when that was absolutely inadvisable.
It's very inadvisable now, and I just want to say that those never turn out good.
Not at all.
I have never, ever seen someone put their face onto an in-game character and had it work. I have never seen it when they give their picture to a professional studio and have it work. There was a guy who won a contest to get his face put into Knights of the Old Republic 2. He looked like a lumpy man when they put his face onto a character model.
Aww.
I was like, I hope it's everything you wished for.
That's so
my
sad.
Good man.
We're all mashed potatoes to the video game studios.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually, I've been thinking I play a lot of Madden. I've said that before, and just some of the way they handle the likenesses of some of those players. I'm sorry, Nick Foles. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a problem that the WWE games have as well, where some of those models do not look like who they're supposed to look like at all.
That's the joy of some of those games, though, is just making hideous man beasts, too.
Can we just, I know Fleming already mentioned Blitzkrieg Bop. Can we do a quick lightning round of what song everyone associates most with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater?
Superman.
Any of the games?
Yeah, Superman.
Really? Because for me, I started with Tony Hawk 2.
Okay.
So it's either Blood Brothers or Guerrilla Radio.
Oh, Blood Brothers.
yeah.
Ooh, Guerrilla Radio is definitely Tony Hawk 2 for me. I think 3 had like an In Flames song in it, and I remember that.
I was kind of out of place, but yeah.
It was super out of place.
That also had Del the Funky Homo Sapien. Mm-hmm. Oh, Tom, you mentioned that you played it on the Nintendo 64, and it was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1.
Yes.
Did it actually
That was
have the
first one
full
I played.
songs? Because I remember a lot of people saying that it only had like 30-second loops of every song because the cartridge didn't have enough memory to play the entire
No, it was
song.
the full
No,
song.
it had the whole
So
songs.
it would be like the
Yeah.
first 30 seconds of Superman over and over again.
God, no.
I honestly don't remember, but I would definitely believe if it was the first 30 seconds of Superman over and over and over again.
I'm almost certain it was the full song because that's all I ever played them on was the 64.
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they had the whole songs. They maybe were like cropped in some way. Like let's say you had a
Okay.
5-minute song and they cut it down to 3 by taking out an instrumental part or something. Maybe some of that, but I think every song had the whole song in it because it would rotate through them. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I don't think it would have been the first 30 seconds.
So I'm pulling up the list of Tony
Ooh,
Hawk songs
yes.
right now because I need to drive down memory lane.
Are we looking at Tony Hawk or?
Bring the noise.
Yep. Anthrax and was a Public Enemy.
Yep.
Yes,
Heck yeah.
that was a huge one.
You're looking at Tony Hawk Pro
oh,
Skater
man.
1, I assume the first one.
I'm looking.
All of it.
I remember 96 Quite Bitter
Oh.
Beings in number 3
Yeah.
All my best friends are metalheads.
Yes.
by
Yeah.
London
Those you
Jake.
guys.
Yeah.
Yep. There's some more ska.
I mean, we could go. There are so many like iconic songs from certain things. Like I remember, I'm guessing it was 2003's Madden, maybe 4's, somewhere in there. But I remember Anthem was on there, and that was kind of
Oh yeah.
like there's certain songs in certain, especially sports-based games, where it's just like,
Yeah.
yep, I remember that one. It was on that you know.
SSX3 for me was
Yeah.
Higher Ground by the Chili Peppers, and then Stare at the Sun
Yeah.
by Thrice.
Yep.
And then Burnout 3 had a surprisingly good soundtrack as well.
There's two more iconic Tony Hawk ones that I just saw in this search. One is When Worlds Collide by
Power Man
5000.
Yep.
And the other, there was one I don't. It didn't come up in the search, but it came up in my brain. It's called, ironically, it's called "I Want to Pierce My Brain."
Who's
Something
that
like
by?
that. I have no idea. I gotta Google
the
it.
internet.
I'm gonna clickety clack.
Yeah, you gotta check that out because
Yeah, I think
Rubber City Rebels.
cool.
Rubber City or River City.
Rubber.
Because I
as
was
in
like,
entire
River
rubber.
City Rebels are like a Northeast PA
Yeah.
band, but never mind.
This is a band I have never heard of except for that game, and will probably
Never
never,
hear again.
hear from ever again.
Yeah, I think for me, I actually, and I know this might be blasphemy, I never played Thug or Thug 2. I stopped at like Tony Hawk's 4. The only reason I have that game that you mentioned on the PlayStation 3 is because it was a Christmas present. And I guess I'm that party pooper that was like, the games are getting too silly for me. Like, I think obviously no one can actually skate like they really do in those games.
What do you
except
mean?
Maybe Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 was somewhat realistic. When you watch like the pro videos that they used to put into those games and compare it to the actual gameplay, you're like, wow, these guys are not good skateboarders. It's like, no, they're really good skateboarders.
It's just really hard.
What you do in the game is absolutely ridiculous compared to what real skateboarders can do.
Yeah, you're like bending physics and everything in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and yeah, they're very good. But maybe that's part of the problem that people, would first got introduced to skateboarding through some game like that, and then they're like, oh my god, there's people that can do this kind of thing, and there's like, no one no one can do a 720. Stop it. It's very hard. Very, very hard to do.
And then you watch the X Games, and it's impressive that somebody's going up and grabbing the lip of a half pipe and then going back down it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for Rodney Mullen, that guy is a wizard.
Oh, he's so good
with street style. But like, yeah, for me, and I know it's kind of like hypocritical since I said I loved SSX3 so much, which was entirely unrealistic. Nobody undoes their bootstraps while they're snowboarding. They would die or become paraplegics or quadriplegics. But yeah, I kind of drifted away from Tony Hawk because it became too cartoonish for me.
I don't know what you're talking about. Every time I go outside, I grab a skateboard, okay? And then I jump on a very thin piece of wire with that skateboard. And I just ride it for like 3 miles straight without falling off.
You do a little
Tom,
kickflip at the end so you can do it again.
You're one of my best friends and I love you, but I got scared seeing you ride a scooter.
A Barbie scooter, no less.
Yeah.
What an animal.
I hope they come out with another game like that.
Me too.
I miss extreme sport games.
It really is interesting how there just are no more extreme sports games, like, at all.
No.
Well, you know what's an extreme sports game? Rocket League.
Yeah.
Soccer cars, but it's, yeah.
It's not
I
the
guess.
same, but it is kind of what extreme sports have gone towards, stuff like that now.
That's what it is today.
Yeah. Oh, well. Megan, what have you been thinking about?
We'll talk about Catlateral Damage.
Are you serious? Oh, I'm so excited.
I mean, if you really want
That
to, I was
sounds
only joking, but yeah, totally.
We can talk about that right now if that's not your real topic.
It's
We
not
can
a real
take,
topic, but like, yeah, we can
take
talk
like
about
5
it.
to 7 minutes to talk about Catlateral Damage.
Is everyone familiar with Catlateral Damage?
No.
What? Catlateral Damage. They had me at cat.
Yeah, and you had me there too.
It's, would you say it's cel-shaded graphics?
Yeah.
Yeah, so cel-shaded graphics. You're a tiny little cat, and you unlock different cats throughout playing the game. But the premise is you are a cat, and your goal is to knock everything off of surfaces.
And this is purchased.
Well, I think it's looking this game up right now.
That's all you do.
I'm literally looking this game up right now and purchasing
What
it.
is this on?
Multiple things. I know it's on the PlayStation for sure because I have it, and there is a VR mode, I think I've heard.
Oh my god.
Which I haven't tried, but I really, really want to. I think it might be on the computer as well. PC.
It is. I have the availability. It is PlayStation 4, Windows, Linux, Mac. It's got everything.
Oh, I'm gonna play it on
Yeah.
Linux.
Yeah, let's get our Ubuntu VMs kicked up, boys.
I'm gonna play on Slack there.
Yeah, but that sounds incredible.
It's so
I want to
simple.
play it.
It's so stupid. It's so much fun. I recommend it if you don't mind spending however much it is right now. I'm not really sure. I probably paid way too much for it when it first came out, but I was in. I saw Cat. I saw a video game. I bought it.
You to
Do
know.
get yelled at furiously by whoever's trying to take care of you at the
No,
moment when you knock
surprisingly, there are
everything
like no humans in it. It's just you. There are like little power-ups that you can find in like, I think, boxes and stuff. It's really been a long time since I played it, but you can get like power-ups to jump higher or like get super swats. It's charming.
Super swats. That sounds adorable. I would like you to know that this game is only $10. So this will be in my cart and purchase. There's also a VR version.
Yes.
So if you want to
Yep.
be inside as a cat, you can do that.
I can channel my cats.
Here's what I want to do. I want to get meta, and I want to get a headset, and I want to put it on one of my cats, and I want to watch them run around both in real life and in the game, because as soon as you put a VR headset on them, you know they're going to freak the fuck out and try to just... Oh, I'm sorry, I can't say that, can I? They're going to freak out, and they're just going to run all over the place.
Well, I think the goal of the game is, like, there are different levels.
Yeah.
And it's to cause... one of the levels is a museum, and the goal is to cause as much, like, monetary
Destruction,
damage as you can. So you're knocking, like, paintings off the wall and knocking down gigantic dinosaur skeletons and things like that.
Sculptures.
This sounds incredible. This is such a... I love these games that are, like, super, super cheap, that are, like, under $20. Like, $20 is, like, to me, a cheap game. But it's under that, and it hits just, like... one thing that you have in your life where it just you relate to that game so much, and then the game is fun and it only costs you $20. That's it. Going back to our the first topic about Resident Evil 3 remake you mentioned, it's like that's the perfect kind of thing. It's just a quick niche game. It's like maybe 10 hours of play, spending $20, but it's just so much fun. It's just a simple little dorky game.
I am
6 hours of being chased by Nemesis Zombie. 6 hours of knocking things off of a table is a pleasant little kitty cat.
I am definitely going to go with the kitty cat.
Or Untitled Goose Game. That's another good one. Just run around annoying people.
I've heard of this and never played it.
It's fun. It's another, like, just simple, quick, fun game.
Indie games are weird
I
right
love
now.
it so much.
No, I completely agree, Megan. I absolutely love it. It's such a fun concept, and it's so enjoyable that people are like, "Hey, you know how our cats are knocking stuff down? Hey, let's make a game about it." Come on.
Octodad, anyone?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I have never played but want to play so much. I mean, even weird stuff like PC Building Simulator. Like,
House Flipper, Megan.
I admit I've watched hours of people playing PC Building Simulator just in the background while I'm doing other stuff because I like building PCs.
I had a back surgery almost 2 years ago, and I was stuck in a chair, and I saw someone play PC Simulator, and I wanted it so bad. I can't tell you how much joy it brought me to watch someone play that game. And
It's interesting, right?
And more recently, as Mike brought up, House Flipper. I don't own it. My fiance bought it. But you just go into homes and clean up garbage and clean up dirt and then paint them and sell them. It's great.
Let's be honest. We're like old millennials now, and there's the dad and mom part of our brains that are just like, flipping houses is a wonderful way to set yourself apart and make a stable financial basis.
That's because of HGTV and all that stuff too in the past 10, 15 years that are like, flip this house and stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm just waiting for when they make a sequel to it and they inject some sort of like super personality into it, like the guy from Flipping Vegas, who's just like, you can't do that type of thing in my house.
Is there a name for those? Like, I don't think it's an indie game. It's more of like
what you would call it.
There needs to be like, it's almost like a niche. Niche isn't the right word, but just some kind of like very specific, then super cheap, kind of cheaply created game that's just fun for a few hours, then you drop.
It's the things you'll never achieve in real life genre.
Aspirational games.
I wanted to be a cat, but I can't be, so I'm gonna just become one in a game. Yeah.
I feel attacked.
No, you know,
I know.
I have it open on Steam already. It will be purchased because this game sounds incredible. Thank you for bringing it to my life.
You're welcome.
I point the finger at none of you, but directly at the audience, and I say, if you haven't desired to be a cat at one point in your life, have you truly lived?
Oh man. Yeah.
And I think that's where we'll end it.
I think we'll end the episode on I want to be a cat.
Everybody wants to be a cat.
So long from the chaos that
the
is
only cat who
The
knows
JoyPad, also known as the JoyPod Padcast.
Pad cats.
In this case, the pads of our cat feet as we swipe you
Oh,
off
those
the
toe
table.
beans.
Yeah, if we wouldn't get the heck suit out of us by Disney, I would close this episode out with "Everybody Wants to Be a Cat" from the Aristocats.
Oh, that'd be so wonderful. I guess we'll have to just end it in our typical goodbye.
Yeah. Next week, Megan's real topic. It wasn't Catlateral Damage.
But you're welcome anyway.
But that's a good idea if we pick like a super tiny specific topic just to pad out the end of every episode.
Yeah.
Not bad.
We can call it the quick points. Or
There we go.
the quick games, something like that.
The quick
The
pick.
quickie.
Oh no.
JoyPad's quick pick.
Yep.
All right.
Alrighty.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
You can find us wherever you can find us, YouTube and other places. I don't know yet.
Smash that button.
None of this is set up yet. We're professionals.
Shut up, past Mike Pinto, because here's future Mike Pinto to plug those social media channels that you were talking about. I also got a new mic in between the time that this first episode was recorded and when I'm recording these plugs, so sorry for the disparity in sound quality. Anyways, social media channels are super easy. Just search for JoyPad Pod everywhere. So if you want us on Facebook, you can find JoyPad Pod. If you want us on Instagram, just search for JoyPad Pod. And if you want us on Twitter, I believe we're JoyPad Pod 1, but our handle is @JoyPadPod. Anyways, back to the past.
Kick that button. Lick that button.
Don't lick that button.
Stick that button.
Also, don't do that. Wash your hands and don't do any of what Tom just said.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.